was asked to judge over 200 dashboards for one of the biggest dashboarding competitions in the world by Onyx Data, the Onyx Data DNA challenge. I truly deeply appreciate everybody who submitted their work for this challenge. It's a lot of work to build a dashboard, and that's not something that you do in an hour. So I'm not just going to be positive for the sake of it, but also just know that I don't want to make anybody insecure. I, a couple of years ago, had no idea what I was doing. And if I look back on those dashboards, I can point out a lot of things that I can learn from. So what I'm going to judge on is user experience design and user interface design. Is it a little bit more trendy? Did they apply some graphical principles? What's happening with the storytelling? Is there real product design? And are the data visualizations used to communicate insight and not just display data? And see if they use some cognitive principles to guide me as a user and to support that data communication. So that's what I'm all going to look at. But first, I want to dive in a little bit deeper into the assignment. We have a business case here, which is e-commerce. So let's look at what Onyx Data set up for us. So I'm on the Data DNA page, and here you can see me. My picture, which I do not like, cropped out, but doesn't matter. And we can download the dataset here. I already downloaded it. So what we see here, event date. So there are orders and invoices. Are there any other types? Blanks. Okay. And I know a little bit about e-commerce, especially now that I'm a business owner myself and I have my own landing page and sales funnel and all that stuff. If you do not have knowledge of your domain, doesn't matter, but research it. And the data can already tell you a lot about business logic. So that's what I'm doing here. So we have different countries, we have different channels. And a data dictionary, this tells us something about the fields. So what it exactly is, in case we do not know. Onyx Data also has these questions that they provide you with to guide your analysis. And what I expect is that a lot of people will pretty literally visualize these questions, and then you get a visualized data set, you get flat insights. But I'm looking at the deeper story, the why behind what we're creating. So whenever you're creating any dashboard for a challenge, but also just on the job for a real client, you want to understand the business. You want to be domain literate. You want to understand the business logic. So looking at these questions, looking at the data set, there are basically three big themes I think that would make sense to visualize on. I haven't seen any dashboard yet, so I'm just trying to form my own opinion before I'm going to look into the others' designs. But one thing that I see, of course, is our financial strategy. So this is just performance, and this is about money. Then secondly, I see product strategy. This is about focus. What do we focus on? What are we going to sell? How is that going? And lastly, we have our sales funnel and customer behavior. So that is our growth engine. So I think that these are the subjects, the analysis, the reports that are very interesting in this specific case. So I'm going to look for the answering to the why behind these three themes. And apart from that, I will look at product design. That means user experience, user interface, usability. And I'm going to look at data communication, which is, data visualization, data design. Okay, so that's what we're going to look at. Now, let's start with the judging process. There's a lot of work that went into this dashboard. I really have a lot of respect for all the analysis that this person did. And even though the buttons maybe not have the most modern outlook, it does a very good job in signaling this is where you are, this is where you can go. Follow the hub and spoke structure where you have this executive summary overview, and then you can go through more detailed pages. Now, there is a problem with this color palette because it's a very monochromatic color palette, which is a good starting point, but the visuals themselves have zero semantic meaning. There are red highlights for the values, the month-over-month values that are down, but the charts still remain the same overall within the dashboard. So there's too little focal point here. Also, I expected the light teal on the light background, which is like a super light shade of teal and this teal probably do not have enough contrast for accessibility. So there is throughout this dashboard, there are quite some contrast issues. And I understand that it is challenging. For example, here we can see it where the dark black numbers just fall flat against the bars, and we need to solve this. We cannot accept this, basically, from an accessibility point of view and a usability point of view. So yeah, it's challenging if you have a gradient where it goes from light to dark, because then you need to shift your type from light to dark. So ways to solve this is shifting the entire color palette darker or having conditional formatting. And I want to point out how good all these analyses are. They are quite difficult. So from a data literacy point of view, that could be problematic. I do not have the space to dive into them right now. But what I do see is that this person can pay a little attention into the titles, and instead of explaining what they did when it comes to picking measures or the analysis they did, try to communicate it better. So make it easy, make it really like childish language and more natural language. Try to steer away from using questions in your titles, because that just adds on cognitive load. You want to immediately provide them with the answer that they're getting from the chart. But overall, I mean, they experiment with so many charts. It's really impressive. The donut charts, I mean, here I can accept it. It's fine. But on the map, it's I think it's too much. It's not really functional there. So I would reconsider those charts. The first thing that you see here is that, to me, I really like these colors. And the reason why is because there's a strong visual hierarchy. Somehow this person chose the colors in a way that feels kind of calm. I'm kind of landing in the page. But there's a problem with the focal point on this page. So if someone looks at your page, you always want to guide them through your story and what to look at first and what to look at next. And now the first thing that grabs our attention is zoom charts. There's a big contrast, a big popping color red against all the purple. And that's actually not the intention, I think, or it shouldn't be. It should be maybe here on a month-over-month revenue number. So if this would have been formatted that way, that would have been nice. I have kind of a problem with the layout. The alignment is good, and I think that's always very important. The shadows are maybe slightly too dark, could have been a bit less, especially the shadow here on the top right that casts a shadow on this element. You want to have a different layering here, I would say. But I can see that there's a problem with the layout here. This visual is too cramped. There is usability features that are in the visual. And I think this person just took their losses with this. Also, the visual is kind of awkward when it comes to the month selection. So I'm not sure what happened there on the data side. But what you want to do is just keep pushing through. Just keep trying to find a solution. And if this visual needs more space, well, there is enough space. We can make all these titles, we can make this smaller. We can make all the KPIs smaller and see if we can make it pop out a different way than with just very large numbers. Maybe give them an extra background or something like that. We could have shifted these bars, these bar charts, could have been way smaller. Then we could have changed this column charts to the right, and that would give more, way more space. So keep playing around with the layout. I know it's challenging, but we should not take our losses too fast. Okay, so this person again translated their information architecture into a very consistent navigation menu, which is, I think, well done. Also thinking about their filter pane. So I have a couple of issues with this. I think it's a little bit taste. This is really the trend right now, what this person did. But I do not like icons in navigation menus because we do not have a convention about them. So I need to learn what these icons mean. I mean, okay, this is something with money, this is something with people, but I would rather just have text so that I can understand what is what, or you have a combination. And secondly, hiding filter panes is generally not a good idea because you are at risk of people having filter context on while not being aware of it, and them needing to memorize it and not quickly, like at a glance, look back at my selection and then look at my dashboard. I do not know what is behind the filter pane. If there are multiple filters, for example, 7 filters, that also points at an information architecture problem where maybe you need to make more decisions as a designer on what you're going to show and how you're going to slice and dice your data. So that's on the user interface and usability. Then overall, I think clean look, very clear identity, very clear color palette. Of course, red and green, do not advise it because that is the most common color deficiency that there is. So if you have a little bit of a bigger user group, red and green, there's always someone who cannot read it. However, they combine it with arrows, even though the arrow in itself doesn't really say if it's positive or negative, because that can depend on the specific KPI. I would just love to see more sentiment with other colors than red and green. And what I saw, I mean, I like the creativity with the flags. I think that flags for countries are not that user-friendly. I think they do add noise and they do add cognitive load because we do not recognize flags at a glance. So I think that country names just do a good job. But then we have the problem here that here the flags are countries and here the flags refer to currencies. And that confused me because I thought that maybe these were countries, but it's a currency thing. So this is really something to be cautious about, how the design decisions that you make communicate. But overall, this person is really on the right track of figuring out how to use their interface to communicate more and communicate stronger and have more of a storytelling to it. Then there's a lot of use of donut charts. A little bit too much, in my opinion. I can accept a couple of donut charts, but here we are just like with way too many categories, and I think comparing regions this way is just not. It does work if you have a part of a whole analysis, but if it's really the comparison of different things, and I would never use a donut chart because it's really hard to compare curved lines. Okay, this is a great formatting for the hero measures. So there's a very clean layout, there's good attention grabbing, there's context, there is enough white space, maybe could be a little bit less, there's grouping, proximity. So overall, the way that these KPI cards are formatted is really good, especially because they added this extra context here. We do again have the problem with the red and the green, unfortunately, but apart from that, I just think that this is so attention-grabbing. I think this is so well done. But there is kind of an issue with communication or consistency, and I'm lacking some context. So I'm not sure what month I'm looking. Is it November or is it December? I do indeed see a very dramatic drop here on the orders and also the invoices. And what I would love to see is that I have this big red alarming number on the KPI chart for the total revenue, and then I have this monthly revenue visual. I want to see that red coming back there because then my mind understands the relationship between the two, and that will be very good. But because I see these percentages, I kind of I'm not sure, the visuals and the KPIs do not seem to align. So I'm not sure, but that's a data thing. I'm not going into the data too much right now, but it's all about consistency. Again, we have the navigation menu with all the icons that I do not really love, and which is funny. Here we see a hand with a human, and on the other dashboard we saw a hand with money, and that's my entire point. Like, there's not a convention. Everybody just does something. But what I do really like, and this is the first time I see it now, is a reset button, which is extremely important from a user experience point of view, because that means that we can make errors and that we can quickly get back to neutral state. And that's something that you always want to add. Also, filter pane is hidden, or the filters are hidden. I do believe that there's enough room on this page to add just your filters. That would have been possible. Yeah. Also, this person has a very good discipline with color management. They have a very consistent use of colors, and all the colors have some semantic value, and I think that's super good. Little bit issues with contrast. I think especially the green bluish, it's maybe too light, too saturated. And the pink, the light pink, if that would have been a purple-ish gray, a shade, a bit lighter, and then we would use the pink or the red as a different hue to signal things, it would have been even more strong. Also, they did a great job in aligning. Sometimes the alignment is a little bit off, fixing that, making it very precise, all the margin exactly the same. It will make a difference in how clean your dashboard looks overall. I would suggest getting rid of the rounded corners of your canvas page. I think it's a little distracting, especially on the menu here. Yeah, I don't know, somehow it gives some visual noise. And then when looking at the insides, there are some small issues, such as not having a legend here. That would have worked, because now I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Like, I can assume, but I'm not sure. And again, don't plot years next to each other, but plot them. Because now I thought it would have been like previous year, but now I see it's just a duplication of a measure. I think, like, it's the same measure, but then 1 month after, something like that. Well, I'm not sure what it is. So that's a point of feedback. And then, yeah, that's everywhere. So I cannot really say it for sure for this visual, but I expect that the line and the bars are unrelated. And there are not a lot of cases where that works really well, a combined chart in this way. But yeah, overall, again, great job. Now, when it comes to our hero measure, revenue, I do like the formatting of this card. I can see that they really put some effort in storytelling here. How has net revenue changed over time? Once again, I do not think that that supports with cognitive load, but it adds on to cognitive load. So I would just say revenue trend. And then you have summarized this and someone immediately understands that. So make it a bit easier. We do have a legend that is good. We have only the dotted line. I'm not sure what it is. So that should have been added to the legend. Maybe it's an average, but it could also be a target. I don't know. And if we would have made the title smart, revenue trends, and we somehow, in a smart way, could have gotten this KPI card to the left, like, make it a little bit more storytelling. But like overall, I just like the clean look, and I like, you know, the little light on the border, but we're just not there yet. That's, I think, yeah, around the message I have. Cap table also lacks a legend and lacks color meaning. So that's really something to work on for a lot of dashboards. Like in general, what I just keep seeing is that translation towards the viewer and what you know needs to be made. Your viewer doesn't know what these colors mean. So always think about that when you're creating a dashboard or data visualizations. Filter buttons, nice, great, well done. Reset button, again, well done. So yeah. That's it for this page. Okay, this person has 6 different pages with a very good navigation structure with text, which I love. Consistent, I think it's super well done. The thought behind the pages is also very well done. It's very detailed. The images are pretty bad quality, so I cannot really see everything that well, but I would say pretty much exceptional exploration of all these different data visualizations compared to a lot of other dashboards that I see. And just a good consistent use of layout, of colors. Once again, it's a little hard for me to see, but what I do see is, for example, that Marketplace is yellow here and Marketplace is yellow here. It is a highlighting color against the teal, once again, the teal color. So does it have a reason? I am not sure if it's a semantic color choice or just a categorical color choice. So that's something to be very aware of. And on this page, there's almost no highlight, these are red. That's a refund. So in a refund table, it will always be red. So the problem with this donut chart is that there are way too many categories. So it's not very informative, especially for the lower categories. So yeah, I'm not sure what the idea was behind this, but what I see is that the categories, they are labeled in hues, and that's just a little overwhelming. Even though I think the color palette is pretty nice, it's like pretty balanced, but it goes from red to green, so it covers almost half of the color wheel, and it's a little bit too much. What I would suggest is, for example, the bars, make them just different hues of the teal, and then for the pop-out values, something that you really want to communicate with, then choose the yellow or the orange or the red. This looks like an artwork almost. Wait, customers by... So it's an... I'm not sure how it works, but I do think it's cool because it's innovative. But please add a clear legend or some description so that I can interpret it, because now I don't know what it is, but I think it's cool. I give an extra point for trying out something completely new. It's a very deep analysis, I guess. Also here, completely new analysis that I don't see a lot, a scatter plot. So I think we can really appreciate that this person has tried some new colors that are not that common, with the gray and the pink, but it just really lacks contrast. It really lacks pop, and it's all very muted, and it gives this kind of institutionalized, bland feeling. So I would suggest to add a little bit more saturation, add a little bit more contrast to a color palette like this. There are a couple of issues on this dashboard. First, the filters are on a counterintuitive place. So they are here on the top left, country, month, country, event type. And I think based on what we know from like website usage, we would expect the filters to be either here on the top left or here on the top right, but not here. This is a little bit of a weird place. Also, when we see the KPI cards, they lack some context. We would like to see the period that it's over. Now we have just month all, but still it will be good to give some extra context here. And there's just, I think, some storytelling. I expect someone who is really at the point where they're good at data visualization, or they grasp their decks and their aggregations. But the next phase is to really think about your storytelling a bit more. Also, they already pay attention to usability and user experience. But what I already said a couple of times, the icons. However, they do have titles under it, but there's some battle going on here about attention, where this is almost the biggest highlight of the entire page, where it should be somewhere on the page. And donuts. I see a lot of donut charts on every single page. I see a donut chart, so that's really, really funny. Okay, now I'm going to make an assumption that this person is a little bit earlier in their dashboarding career. I mean, not extremely early, because they do have like some deeper, descriptions, but it is, yeah, it feels a little basic. So what we have is KPI cards, but the KPI cards have only one value. They just have one aggregation. So what we miss here is some context about what period is it, and some sentiment. How should I interpret it? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it what we want compared to a target or a previous year? So that's what you would like to add here. And the KPIs now have they grab a lot of attention, like they're super big. They could be a little bit smaller. And you could add some storytelling here. Is your revenue your hero metric, or and can these all be smaller? Or you know, play with that storytelling. Then we have business performance overview, very big, very attention grabbing. The title of a report can be a bit smaller and attached to your navigation menu, but this is only one page. So then you don't have a navigation menu. But again, just make it very small, somewhere in the corner. It should be there, like in the periphery of your eyes. You know that you can look at it if you're lost. You know where to find it, like on the top of the page. But it doesn't deserve their own spotlight on the stage. Then we have the filter pane, again, hidden. As you know, I do not like that because of cognitive load, working memory, user experience, design, usability, all that stuff. But fine. Then, I mean, it's a good color palette. It's a monochromatic color palette, so we want to add something that contrasts it, that pops, and that highlights sentiment. I would prefer for this color palette, for example, an orange. And there's an extremely big contrast between the dark blue, it's almost black, and the white. And then we have all the borders. So we have here a border, then we have a shadow, then we have another border, and then we have another background with some grid lines. And I think that this is just something, probably it's a screenshot of Power BI with the grid lines enabled or something like that. So we can make it cleaner. We can maybe get rid of the borderlines, blend it more with the background, make it more clean, make it more calm. It's a little busy right now. When it comes to the visuals, again, no legend. It keeps coming back, like in every dashboard. Guys, add a legend. And a stacked bar chart with different categories is a bit difficult for a good analysis. It's an often used solution to compare categories across categories, but maybe we should just accept that that's too much asked, and that small multiples, for example, is a good solution compared to this, because what am I going to get out of it? Even if I had a legend, it would have been very hard to compare some of the things. Okay, that's it for this. I mean, overall, this can feel like a lot of criticism. These are just the very, very basic things that I constantly see, and this was a very good example. Just keep going. It's a good point in the journey of creating dashboards. Again, we have a beautiful teal dashboard. It's dark mode, which I like. I haven't seen that too much so far. Also, what immediately grabs my attention is the big eraser button, which is a good thing because we can reset all our filters. I think it's on the edge of being a little bit too many filters, but I'm happy to see them all at a glance and them not being hidden away. And also we have a good navigation menu. We have information architecture translated into the navigation menu. We have an information button. That one could be a little bit smaller, but it's very good that it is there. And then we have some KPIs with step charts. So they use step charts instead of spark lines. And I think that in this small context, as additional context to a KPI, it is too much information, a step chart. Because a step chart is actually, you have a line chart, and do you want to have even more detailed feeling, then you proceed to a step chart. And for this, I would suggest a curved line, so more of a spark line. And then, yeah, maybe here you can play with the axis, but I'm thinking about the solution, but months, have a title. I don't know. Maybe it's just not needed. But this is awkward. I don't want to see this. Ever. Okay? Now, another thing that we're missing here. So what they are doing well is there's a big highlighted contrast with this lighter green, or this turquoise. Turquoise, sorry. But imagine if this would have been like orange or pink, then it would pop right off the screen, and then you can really utilize it for your storytelling, what they already tried. So here, for example, you can sort it, of course, but if you don't want to, make everything darker green, and then this one, you let it pop out with bigger contrast. There is a contrast issue with the darker teal against the dark blue background. So that's not really like something you can use. So this, for example, this category, it's just too dark. Woo, that was a lot. I need to do so many more dashboards. I'm going to take a little break and then proceed with some other dashboards. So I think I'm just going to release this as the first video. I would really love to hear if this was insightful for you, if you learned from it, if it motivated you. So if you're interested to learn more and go from a chart builder to strategic data communicator, make sure to check out the DATAHUES Academy. The first course launches February